Hey guys, welcome back to Bell Mountain Power Sports. In a previous video, I talked about this surfacing plate that I use to clean up surfaces on like rocker covers, surfaces. I use it on aluminum motorcycle, like a two-stroke bike with the cover that goes on top. I use it on resurfacing heads before I put a gasket on, cylinders before I put gaskets on, to check to make sure that the flatness is good, and just to make sure that there aren't any imperfections there that may be caused by somebody used a screwdriver or a putty knife to separate the pieces and marred up the surface. So what I did is a lot of people use these, and I don't know if you've seen them before, so that's why I'm making this video. But I'm working on this Harley Davidson that somebody used too aggressive a fiber wheel on and really marked it up bad. So what a lot of shops use are these right here, and they work great, but you can't use an aggressive one. This is a fine. They have a very fine one, and the problem sometimes in using these is controlling the speed. If you have an air regulator, you can control it that way. I just kind of use my fingers and just kind of set it where I want it, and just lightly go over this surface. I'll turn the camera down here so you can see what I'm working on. Yeah, right there. So what I'm working on right here is this valve cover on a Harley Davidson. So, if you're using this at all, here, back up. We need to turn really fast. Yeah. So, I just kind of pinch a little bit. Clean it up a little bit. Try about as fast as you want to go. Just to clean it up. Don't leave it in one spot too long so you don't create a divot. First, before I even do that, I use my flat razor blade. I like using razor blades rather than the gasket scrapers that they sell because they can catch an edge. These are so damn cheap. You buy it like 500 of them for $10 and then just throw them away. And these are super sharp, super flat, and I just do it by hand. I don't use a tool. The reason why I don't use a tool is because you lose the feeling of what you're doing in your fingertips. So the closer you are to the tool, the better feeling that you have. And I can feel if I catch something. Okay, I caught something there. Okay, work on that. Okay, and you can be real light with this tool without grabbing an edge or damaging anything. You're just gliding over it. Okay, so once you do that, if you got something stubborn, you can use a piece of cloth like this and get it. Okay, use some brake parts cleaner. Sometimes that works to get the glue off. They do make adhesive cleaner, but because the EPA is, at least here in California, it's garbage and it doesn't work. So you can use part cleaner, you can use alcohol, you can use acetone. Acetone works good also for cleaning this up. But what I have here is this surfacing plate. Basically, it's a 1/4-inch piece of tempered glass. It's about 18 inches square. Something like that, big enough to put on a full-size piece of 400 grit wet and dry sandpaper. So, and definitely you want to put some duct tape on the edges because this edge will cut you. So I got some of this Loctite high performance glue and spray adhesive. So what you do is you take your paper and you spray the back of the paper a nice fine mist. You don't want it to be heavy because then that's going to create bumps in the surface of the sandpaper and you're not going to get a nice finish. So a nice light spray on the back of the paper and a nice light spray on the glass. Let it sit up till it's tacky, and then just push it down, okay? You might get a little roll of an edge, but that's okay. The whole idea is to make this nice and flat. That's why we use glass, because glass is flat. They do have stones that you can use, but they're very expensive. So this is a poor man's version of that, but I've been using it for years and years, and it works great. But basically what you want to do is don't push down too hard in any one area. Kind of spread your hands out and kind of, try or grab it here. Try to make sure that you're putting down even pressure around this, okay? And I squirt a little bit of WD-40 on here to wet it. You could use water if you want to, but I use the WD-40. And so what you're doing is you're just trying to make sure that it's as flat as possible, because that's going to make your gaskets seal better, and head gaskets, especially if you're torquing a surface. So you can kind of see that. It was really bad before from marks from the abrasive that they had used on this, or I don't know what the hell they used, but I'm assuming it's something like that. You can see, I don't know if you can see it. You can see it right here. And it looks a hell of a lot better than it did when I first pulled it off. The rest of this looks really good. It's a little bit of it right there. See, that's not machining mark. This is supposed to be nice and flat when they come from the factory. So there's a little bit there. So I'm going to do it a little bit more and try to see if I can get some more of that out. Now these new gaskets head gaskets that I'm using James gaskets. And James gaskets are not just flat metal with a sealant on it. They actually have a rubber bead, silicone bead, all around the gasket to help them seal and contract and expand with the heat of the motor. And they will also actually help to make up for any of these little tiny imperfections. So they're great gaskets. I don't like Cometic gaskets. They don't offer that. And I'm not saying all Cometic gaskets are bad, but I've had some head gaskets fail in the past. So here we go. Looks better. It's not perfect, but it's definitely not perfect, but I think it's as good as we're going to get without replacing this. Not a cheap part, but I honestly think that the new gaskets that I'm using are going to compensate for that little imperfection there. It's not much. I really can't even feel it. It's so minute. So let me show you these new James gaskets. So this gasket, if you can see this, it has these rubber beads, and they are part of the gasket, and you can feel them. They're raised. And so when you torque this down, those are going to get squished. And then as the two metal parts heat up and cool down, these are going to give a little bit, and they're not going to break their seal like a metal gasket like this is going to do. What brand these are? Yeah, these are Cometics. That's probably why it leaked. So this is a Cometic gasket. They're good one time, and people will clean them and spray copper coat on them. It's very fine copper particles that are sprayed out of a can with glue. They're mixed with glue. That's what they did on this one. This is the top gasket. This is the bottom gasket. This goes here. It leaked. This leaked. Because can you see the warpage in that? It's warped, okay? And that's what happens. So they're good. They come brand new flat, but then they warp. And then there's a problem. And then they're like, oh, I don't want to pay $10 for a new one, so I'm going to spray some gasket sealer on there, and it leaks. And the other thing is you've got to get this super clean, like surgically clean, all the parts before you spray the gasket sealant on there. I've done it with success in the past, but I'm really anal about cleanliness, and that's probably why it worked. So cleanliness is key to getting a good seal. Highly recommend these gaskets. Also, the other thing is, as far as getting a good seal and getting a good torque, is the bolts that you're using to torque these down and the holes have to be clean. And I think I'm done with this one. It's as good as I'm going to get. Now, you see, if you can look down in here, in this hole, you can see all of the debris. I don't know if you can or not. I hope you can. You can see all of the debris left behind by the old Loctite. So what you got to do is you got to clean this debris out. And you can use a reamer, or you can use a tap like this. I hope you can see this. I'm tapping. It's going in nice and smooth. If it binds at all, you're crooked, stop immediately. Don't go any further. Okay. So this is turning into a lesson on stud preparation. These holes are just for the cover. These are torqued, but not torqued like they are on the head. But still, you don't want these to leak either. So if you can see all of the crap that I pulled out of that hole, okay, that's going to keep your new Loctite from sealing. And once you've done that, get in there and spray this out. And I don't have my air hooked up. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. And then blow it out dry. Now, I don't know if you can see that now, but 100% better. Okay. Nice clean hole. Who doesn't like a nice clean hole? Okay, and then now, so the bolts are the same. So these are two of the bolts. Okay, this is the back bolts here that hold down the rocker covers. But you see all the crap here, right? That's on that bolt. And all the bolts are going to be like that. Some's going to be dry, some's going to be a little wet. Okay, you got to get that off. So what you can do over here, I took a tap handle, put my die in there, and set this up in the vise here. Screw that in here. Take my electric ratchet, which I love. And just bring that down in there. You don't have to go all the way because, part of those threads are not touching. Part of those threads are not touching. Okay. Okay, now I'm almost out. Okay, clean that off nice. That bolt goes in there like butter, okay? And that's what you want. You want to have, a tiny little bit of rattle on it. That's what that Loctite is for. It's going to fill that gap and lock those threads together. If you try to put these parts together and they still got all the Loctite on there, it's not going to seal correctly, because your Loctite is meant to be lock steel together, not Loctite together, right? Makes sense? So you got to do that on all of these holes. And you can see, here's the other holes. You can actually see the buildup in this hole where the bolt went through before. There's no threads in there, but that's how much Loctite is left behind. And they use too much Loctite. You don't need a lot, okay? So let me show you that. I'm going to have to clean this off again anyways. I'm going to do all these bolts all over again anyways. But, okay, so here's Loctite. The label came off of this, but I know what it is. It is medium high temp Loctite made by, what's the name of the company? Hold on a second. Well, so there's two brands I use. I use the Honda, and I use a Tight Bond. I like the Honda because they have a blue, which is what I use for just like plastics and plastic fasteners and something that you're going to take on and off. They make a medium, which is what this is, and then they make a medium high temperature, which is what this is. And so because this is going on a Harley motor, they get really hot. They're air cooled. So I'm going to go with the medium, which is what Harley calls for, a medium 243 Loctite, this is equivalent to the medium 243, except for this is high temp. So, and look, this is a small bolt. This is like a, 3/16 bolt. I'm sorry, not 3/16, but like 3/8, a little bit bigger than quarter. But look, you only need to put a drop at the first 3 threads, okay? Because once you put that into the hole, it's going to spread out. And it's going to go right down into those threads. So it's going to spread out. If you put too much, it's not going to dry quickly. Some of that moisture it's going to get left behind. So the thinner it is, the better it is, because it's going to dry properly. So you can see how wet that is now and how far that went up. It's spread over the whole bolt and it's down in there. So this is what you want to do. Clean that out of there. Putting this back together for a minute. Okay? And so that's how you got to prep these frames. Man, if you don't, your torque isn't going to be right, because any kind of extra resistance that isn't just thread to thread is going to affect your torque setting. Okay? So you gotta torque it properly. Another thing about torque wrenches, okay? So I have a little snap-on torque wrench here, okay? So it has a swivel head to get into tight places, but here's the thing. The torque is only accurate when that bar from here to here is flat. If you start doing this and torquing on it, that affects the torque setting. So whenever you're getting in there, and try to make sure that this is as flat as possible, and don't grab it here. The torque setting is designed for the leverage from this handle to the center of this socket here, okay? If you shorten it up, it's going to affect the torque. Okay, you pull on this all day long and nothing's going to happen. So make sure you're way out here and it's as level as possible. Okay, click, click, you're done. Okay, oh, and then making sure you follow the manufacturer's pattern, a crisscross pattern, like on this. It's on these 4 bolts that hold the rocker down. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. In quarter turn increments. Don't torque this all the way, then torque this all the way, and then torque this and this. You go back and forth in equal turns. So if I'm doing this one, I'm going to do a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter. And then click. This one's going to click. This one's going to click. And then this one's going to click. And then I always go back to the first one just to make sure. And then if that clicks, still clicks, they're all good. Okay, so that's how you do it. So there is a manufacturer's OEM pattern. Follow that pattern, and then you're going to be fine. Sometimes the pattern works from inside out. Sometimes it goes corner to corner and goes inside. If it's a bigger surface, you definitely, most of the time on a bigger surface, you're going to start the inside and work your way out. That way the gasket is pushed to the outside, the pressure is pushed to the outside, rather than you pushing it inside so you don't get a crimp in the center, because the gasket may move and then push. So if you're going this, and it's almost like if you're putting vinyl on and you moving the bubbles to the outside. That's kind of the theory, okay? So you're kind of like, think about it that way. I'm pushing the bubbles to the outside. Okay, of flattening out that gasket. Okay, so that's why you do that. So I hope that helped you guys. Get a set of thread chasers. Thread chasers are actually better than a die, but they're a tap and die, because the thread chasers are made out of hard aluminum and they're inferior to the metal. So they won't take any metal off. I'm very careful with this, and there's tiny bit of metal, but not much at all. So if you want to, get a set of thread chasers for whatever size you're working for, they have a little socket head on them, so they're actually easier to work with. I have them from Memphis. I'll just show you what one looks like. Okay, this is an 8mm and a 6mm thread chaser. They do wear out. I've already wore out one of these. Because they're inferior to metal, they will wear out. So basically what this does is, you can see that slot in there, and you can see some debris still left behind. So what this does is it scrapes out all the glue and just deposits it in that little slot there, and then you just clean it off. So this is really the best way to go. In a pinch, you can use a tap and die. Just don't get aggressive with it. Be very careful when you're turning it in there, and then you should be okay. I just didn't have one this size, and Napa's closed today, so I'm doing it with this, but you can be sure I'll be buying that. So I think that's everything I wanted to go over as far as that. I think that covers everything. And anyways, I hope you guys learned something. Push the like button, I guess, and if you have any comments, questions, or if you have a video that you want made about a particular thing that you're working on, I may have one. I'm not real great at editing. I don't have time. I'm a busy, small shop owner, and so I just do it on my phone. It's probably not the best thing to use, but just it's the information that counts, not how pretty the video is, or I am for that matter. But anyways, thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next video. If I don't get back to you on your comments, it's not because the comment's not important. It's just that I'm busy, and I will try to answer as many comments as I can. So have a great week, and we'll catch you on the next video. All right, thanks. Bye.